Viewers, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wheresoever you are following us from. Today we will continue to work on what we started in our previous lesson. In our previous lesson, we were trying to discuss on the League of Nations, where we talk about the objectives or the aims of the League of Nations, and we also look at the background of the League of Nations. I believe you have followed the previous lectures. If you have not followed it, you make sure that you go and follow the previous lectures on the introduction of the League of Nations, then you like and then you subscribe so that you will guide you as we continue to move ahead with the topic and you'll be able to understand because of what we did last time. Now, to review on what we talked on last time on the League of Nations, we said the League of Nations was an international organization that was formed after the First World War. When the First World War came to an end, there was a conference that took place in Paris from 1919 to 1920, which was called the Paris Peace Settlement. And in coming in the Paris Peace Settlement, the American president at the time, Woodrow Wilson, he came with 14 points agenda on how peace could be maintained in Europe and how European nations could avoid wars. In the 14 points agenda, the last of those points was the formation of an international organization that was to maintain peace in the world. And this international organization was the League of Nations. The League of Nations, as was proposed by Woodrow Wilson, was formed or was officially inaugurated on the 10th of January 1920 in Geneva, Switzerland. This was the day where the League of Nations was inaugurated and it started functioning. Now, the League of Nations as an international organization, we have looked at the aims or objectives of the League of Nations in our previous lesson. As I said, you go behind and you follow them and you subscribe. Because today, we will be working on the successes of the League of Nations in the 1920s and the 1930s. The League of Nations was formed to maintain peace in the world, and for a period of over 10 years from 1919 to 1939, over a decade, the League of Nations have to maintain peace in the world almost until 1939. That there was the outbreak of the Second World War on the 1st of September 1939, that the League of Nations has to fail. So, in the 1920s and 1930s, the successes of the League of Nations, we will measure them in two different dimensions. The first category, we look at the political successes or land dispute that the League of Nations solved. Then the second dimension, we will be looking at the socio-economic achievements of the League of Nations. Now, let's look at the political successes of the League of Nations in the 1920s and 1930s. Here, we will look at a League of Nations. The League of Nations solved the problem between Poland and Lithuania in 1921. In the year 1921, Poland and Lithuania quarreled over a land called Vienna. The League of Nations Conference of Ambassadors intervened in this dispute, and after examination, the League of Nations asked Poland to withdraw from Vienna, and the island of the Vienna was given to Lithuania. In that way, we look at it that the fact that the League tried to maintain some problem or to solve the problem between Poland and Lithuania in 1921 over Vienna was a success on the side of the League of Nations. Again, still in this very 1921, Poland and Germany, they quarreled over Upper Silesia. In 1921, the League of Nations intervened in this problem by organizing a plebiscite in Upper Silesia. When the plebiscite was organized in this region, Upper Silesia, some of the people in Upper Silesia voted to join Poland, while others voted to join Germany. But we need to know that those who voted to join Poland, they were those, the area were rich in iron ore and coal. That was the area that the part of Upper Silesia that voted to join Poland. We said Germany, though not happy, accepted the veto. In that way, we count it as a success on the side of the League of Nations, because even though Germany was not happy, but at least peace was maintained from 1921. Between Poland and Germany, there was no tension thanks to the intervention of the League of Nations in Upper Silesia. But in 1939, on the 1st of September 1939, Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany in March 1933, had to attack Poland in order to take back Upper Silesia, Danzig, West Prussia, and Pusen, which led to the outbreak of the Second World War. So the League solved the problem between Poland and Germany over Upper Silesia at least from 1921, before the outbreak of the Second World War in 1989. Again, the League of Nations solved a problem that occurred between Sweden and Finland. Sweden and Finland over the Island in 1920. Sweden and Finland quarreled over the Island in the year 1920. The League of Nations intervened in the problem and solved it. Island was given to Finland. Sweden accepted the veto. We appreciate the League of Nations, that the League of Nations did a good work to prevent the outbreak of a war between Sweden and Finland over the Island in 1920. We move forward to continue to look at another success that the League recorded. The League of Nations recorded a success when there was a problem between Greece and Bulgaria. Greece and Bulgaria in 1925. Greece and Bulgaria had a border dispute between the two of them that led to serious shooting in their border. The League of Nations, through a conference of ambassadors, sent a commission when they went and investigated the call for a ceasefire between Greece and Bulgaria. And the ceasefire, the two countries stopped the shooting, and we look at it as the most greatest achievement of the League of Nations in the 1920s was the ability of the League of Nations to prevent a war between Greece and Bulgaria over their border in 1925. Again, in 1926, Turkey and Iraq, they quarreled over an oil region called Mosul. Mosul officially belongs to Iraq, but Turkey has to use force to take over Mosul. The League of Nations had to intervene and solve this issue by asking Turkey to withdraw from Mosul. Turkey withdrew and Mosul was given to Iraq, even though its oil revenues were given to Turkey. The region was given to Iraq, but the part of the region that was having oil was given to Turkey. We said it was a great success on the side of the League of Nations. We move further to look at other areas where the League of Nations solve problems, political problems, or land disputes. The League of Nations again solved the problem between Albania and Yugoslavia. Albania and Yugoslavia. In 1920, Yugoslavia tampered with the territorial integrity of Albania by colonizing Albania. The League of Nations called Yugoslavia to withdraw from Albania or face sanctions, and Yugoslavia had to withdraw from Albania. And we look at it again as another success of the League of Nations, because the League of Nations has to strengthen Yugoslavia, and Yugoslavia withdrew. We need to know that the League of Nations had three main ways in which it was solving issues. The League of Nations had what we call verbal condemnation. They condemn you verbally. That was first. The second one, they give you economic sanctions. And the third one, the League of Nations give you military sanctions by joining forces through collective security to attack you. So at that moment, we discovered that the League of Nations will condemn, or the League of Nations will give economic or military sanctions to nations who were willing to to back down when they attack other nations. In Latin America, we look at the League of Nations solving a problem between Paraguay and Bolivia. The League of Nations solved a problem between Paraguay and Bolivia. In 1920s, the League of Nations again solved the problem between Peru and Chile. Again, in the year 1933, still in Latin America, Peru and Colombia quarreled over a land called Leticia. The League of Nations intervened and asked Peru to withdraw, and Leticia was given to Colombia, and it went as a success of the League of Nations. We continue to move further. Another political success of the League of Nations, we talk about the fact that the League of Nations was able to administer Danzig, some German territories that were seized from Germany after the First World War. Danzig was administered by the League of Nations. The Danzig was a German land that was seized at the end of the First World War. The League of Nations administered the territory. Again, the League of Nations recorded a success in that the League of Nations tried to encourage universal disarmament in the 1920s and 1930s. When we talk about universal disarmament, we talk about the League of Nations encouraging countries to disarm their soldiers and to reduce the size of their military equipment that they were producing. Again, another German land that the League of Nations administered was Polish corridor. Polish corridor was given to Poland, and the Upper Silesia, the League of Nations administered Upper Silesia for 15 good years from 1920 to 1935 at the end. So, those were some of the successes of the League of Nations, political or land dispute that the League of Nations was able to solve in the 1920s. So, we have looked at that now. As I earlier said, the League of Nations had political or land dispute that the League solved in the 1920s, that we have just enumerated some of the problems. Now, we need to move now to the socio-economic successes that the League of Nations recorded in the 1920s and 1930s, that we will follow that in our next video. So, follow us or follow again the next video that we'll be doing for the socio-economic successes of the League of Nations, as well as another one will be coming up for the political failures of the League of Nations in the 1930s. Thank you.